Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this training webinar on food waste reduction. This is being organized as part of the EU-funded Life Foster project. Some of you may have already attended our information sessions, but as a quick introduction, the main aim of this project is to help the food service sector cut down on food waste levels in their kitchens and subsequently cut down on costs and waste. This is being achieved through a collaboration with a number of training centers in Malta, Italy, France, and Spain, as well as by reaching out to professionals already working in the industry, such as we are doing today. In our first webinar, we are going to focus on menu planning, receiving and storing ingredients, and the full use of produce. With me today, I have Ronald Griffa, Charlotte Geronimi, and Paul Fenech from ITS, who will run today's training session. I encourage you to write out any questions or comments that you have in the chat below, and I will read them out to our three speakers today. And I believe that also when they will be delivering their presentation, they will also provide cues to have your own comments and feedback on certain parts of the discussion, and will allow you to also pass on your thoughts either through the chat, or else I can allow you to use your microphone and pass on your comments in that way. In this respect, I leave the floor to Charlotte, who's going to deliver the introduction to their presentation. And I believe you're already sharing your screen, Charlotte, right?
Yes, correct.
Perfect. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So first of all, welcome to this webinar. Hopefully, following this webinar, we will all come to realize and understand that the problem of food waste can quite literally be reduced to zero. So we can actually eat, in the very sense of the word, eat the problem away. So basically, just as an introduction, if we had to look at the planet we live on, so planet Earth, the planet has obviously finite resources, which eventually will unfortunately run out. So how we will manage these resources and how we consume these resources will have real lasting implications, not only for prosperity and equity today, but also for our future generations. In the past, it was very common to use every bit of fruit, vegetable, and meat. So I remember even my grandmother, when she was preparing food in the kitchen, she would use every bit. But because of the rise in consumerism, the daily use of food has increased. And obviously, food waste is continuously on the increase. If we had to look at this image here, so the food waste iceberg, what we unfortunately most of us tend to think about is the retail price that sits at the top. But beneath it, we have other aspects which are much deeper and causing havoc, obviously, to this cycle. So we have here some examples. So an increase in food prices, increase in water scarcity, loss of biodiversity, climate change, etc. So unfortunately, although we tend to complain about what we are paying for that beef or for that fish or for the fruit and the vegetables, we are not realizing that when we are wasting food, we are actually increasing that retail price ourselves. Roughly about 1/3 of the food produced globally is either lost or wasted each year. In fact, the food service industry in particularly, which also happens to be the Life Fosters Project's main target, as Gabriel mentioned, produces 10.5 million tons of food waste each year, which is equivalent to 12% to the total food waste, okay, which is quite a large amount if we had to look at it. If we had to look at the causes of food waste, they will vary throughout the globe, okay? And they are dependent on the specific conditions and local situation of a given country. So we cannot compare food waste, for example, in Malta with food waste in African countries, because food waste is influenced by crop production, for example, the choices and patterns that are used, internal infrastructure and capacity, and also the marketing and distribution chains, and also us, okay, so the the consumers purchasing the food. If we had to compare medium and high income countries, okay, so Malta would fall within this bracket, with low income countries, we will see a difference. Basically, the difference is here. So in medium and high income countries, food waste will largely occur at the consumption stage, so where food is actually thrown out when it is still suitable for human consumption. So for example, poor purchase planning or not consuming the food before the best before date, or early in the food supply chain when we throw out food that is of good quality, okay, but it is being rejected because it is not aesthetically pleasing. So it's not, it doesn't look good to the eye, so we just decide to throw it away. In contrast, in the low-income countries, food is mainly lost within the food supply chain before it actually reaches the customer, okay? So here we're seeing losses mainly due to financial, managerial, and technical limitations in maybe their harvesting techniques, or because of inadequate infrastructure, or poor storage and cooling facilities. So we will realize that food loss is truly dependent on the specific conditions of the given country. If we had to look at this graph over here, it's clearly stating, so the light, I'm referring to the light blue color, that the food waste is lost within the supply chain during harvesting, production, transportation, and storage. But if we had to look at countries like industrialized Asia, Europe, North America, and Oceania, and us living in Malta, we fall in this category, a very significant proportion of food is actually lost during the household consumption. So this could be because of, as we mentioned before, the rise in consumerism. So this household consumption is the one indicated in the dark blue category. So you can see the difference between the two. Unfortunately, we tend not to realize that although, yes, there is enough food around the world to feed everyone, we have approximately 800 million people going to bed hungry every year. And although there has been much awareness about this in recent years, the numbers are still drastically increasing since 2015. And it will only take some minor changes to our daily life, okay, to make these big changes. So even if we had to think about maybe the food that we prepared yesterday, even if it is at our home, did any of our family members leave any food on the plate, and then was that food thrown out, or was it put in the fridge to be reworked into something else? Okay, so these minor changes can easily help us reduce food waste at home, let alone what we can do in the industry. Okay, so the percentage will be even bigger. What we have highlighted there in the red circle is the Sustainable Goal 12.3 by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And basically, its aim is to halve per capita the global food waste at the retail and consumer levels by 2030, hopefully. So now, to fight food waste in the food service industry, it is necessary to build an effective food management strategy. We cannot only just complain about it, we actually need to do something about it. And if we had to think about our industry, so hotels, restaurants, etc., usually there are multiple departments working together. So we have those departments that are receiving, storing the food, those that are preparing and serving it, and those that are actually selling the service. Okay, so we have our event sales department, for example. To develop an effective food management program to change the way food is prepared, handled, served, and also sold. It could be that an establishment will consider establishing an internal food waste management task force that would include managers from these different departments that will come together to devise a plan on how food waste can actually be reduced. As Gabriel mentioned in the beginning, during this webinar, we will be discussing the first bit of this food flow chain, okay? So the section where we are referring to how we can prevent food waste, which are the plan, the handle, and the serving. And then in other future webinars, the rest will be discussed. So if we had to look at the first step, which is sourcing, so we could consider together with the chef and the purchasing department to work with suppliers that are actually committed to reducing food waste. Okay, we do some homework a little bit before choosing our suppliers, and we work with suppliers that are willing to reduce food waste. We can obviously check our inventory before we order so that we don't overorder and we prevent spoilage. We could adjust our standing orders so that we base them on the actual volumes that we have. And we could also have alternative ingredients. So rather than sourcing maybe fresh produce that will be spoiled quite easily, we could opt for frozen produce. Maybe we have some participants here that rather than working in the kitchen, work in the events department. So here we can maybe communicate the properties or our establishment's food waste reduction policy to our clients and guests. And this can be used as a marketing tool. We could also promote maybe plated meals or buffets with stations rather than our traditional buffet. Okay, we all know what a lot of food waste those can have. We could include also reduced menus and promote them as part of our menu portfolios when it comes to promoting our events. We could customize menus for maybe we had customers that have previously been to our establishment, and we customize our menus to suit their needs so that we know that they will actually consume the food rather than having too much food wasted. And rather than having a percentage over production for each dish, we could develop a menu of the day that can be used across maybe different events that we are having or that are taking place in our establishment. When we are preparing menus, we can use low waste ingredients that we could also indicate them with icons on our menus. And this would also as well serve as a marketing tool. So we're telling our customers, listen, we are actually doing something to reduce food waste. We could use maybe that ugly produce, okay, so the food that is not really pleasant for our clients to see. We could use them in our recipes, okay, that they're not actually going to see it. It's still good to eat, but it's not visually pleasing. We could also reduce the amount of ingredients that we are using by cross-utilizing them. So for example, I don't know, if aubergines are in season, we could include them in various dishes rather than having just our specialty pasta with aubergine on sale just for the day. We could include that aubergine in different menu varieties that we have. We could also plan a second use for our edible waste. So for example, if we're using potatoes but we want to peel the potato, we can turn that potato peel into something else. I don't know, maybe crisps, etc. So as this introduction, just to bring a closure to it, I'm sure that you will agree that the food waste actually rattles our bottom lines, okay, with a business quite literally throwing away millions of euros of potential profits waste. But as we will come to see, there is hope that we can reduce food waste. And this is important because I am sure you know that it usually totals up to approximately 28 to 35% of our sales. So dealing with food waste will actually help us make a difference in our establishments. I don't know if there are any questions or if we can move on so that my colleagues can continue discussing. We can discuss further ways in which we can reduce food waste.
I think we can proceed to the presentation, then we can go through questions later on.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So Ronald and Paul, I don't know.
Yes, if you have... can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Charlotte, for an excellent presentation. Pity I cannot see all the participants. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining. I was told that the majority are chefs. Am I right, Gabriel?
Yes, you are right.
Okay, so most probably I know some of you for sure. Yes, it maybe does not, it's not music to our ears, but this is the whole truth. Okay. In this slide, as you can see here, we're going to tackle maybe these you heard them before, but it's good to repeat. Maybe one day we'll practice what's written on this slide. How we reduced food, apart from reducing food. Sorry, before that, we're not here to have a solution for your premises, okay? I believe you're all professionals and you all have your ways how to do your own things, no? So we're not here to give you any solutions. We're here to argue how we can prevent food. Just to give you a rough idea, because when we mention food, we always refer to the one that we buy from the supermarkets. To produce 1 kilo of meat, okay? It is calculated that 1,600 liters of water is needed. And usually we don't calculate the other energies and waste what are used to produce 1 kilo of meat. So this is to give you the rough idea. Going back to the slide, the first point is conduct a waste audit. This for us, okay, as chefs. This is the most crucial part where we need to take action to see where and what type of waste is really going into our trash bins. The first step to reduce waste is to find how much is being wasted, okay? And what kind of waste is being produced, okay? By conducting a waste audit, you can find how much your restaurant are currently throwing away, what potentially cost savings are. Yes, sometimes chefs are more trapped under the financial problem more than the food waste, but believe me, all the food waste costs money, okay? The primary goal of this audit is to identify where your restaurant waste comes from, okay? Yes, sometimes we need to do the dirty job by looking into bins and, if possible, dig into our bins to see what exactly is what is being thrown away, okay? If we take the second, fine-tune your menu. What do we mean here, fine-tune your menu? My colleague Charlotte mentioned the buffet. Yes, one of the main food waste problem is the buffet. This is a fact. Yes, we need to make our buffet more attractive than our competitors. Yes, we need to use a lot of products to show what we can do. Yes, when we say fine-tune your menu here, is more calculating on those best sellers. You know, sometimes we produce food just to fill gaps in our buffets, so people are impressed how much we prepared for them. Yes. Sometimes even knowledge here. If we employ people whose knowledge is not as or equipped with our experiences, okay? Yes, people tend to waste because they don't know better, okay? Some people, they do it unintentionally, obviously, because they don't know how to use, or they were not trained how to use certain leftovers from our products in the kitchen. The third is train your staff. Yes, I know this is a very expensive point here, because to train staff, it costs money. But trust me, if you train your staff, you will save money, okay? Because knowledge is the focus of all food waste problem. Really, people do not know better how to prevent waste, okay? When reducing restaurant food waste, okay, the whole staff needs to be on board, and this is our job to bring all the stuff on board, okay? Because obviously this is not a one-person show, okay? We need to keep employees in the know about ways to reduce waste, okay? And teach them not strategies, but more ways, okay, they can easily implement in their roles here, okay? These are more habits that we need to pass to our employees during our working day, okay? These are, let's say, these are the best habits, okay? I know it takes money to educate your staff. I know it takes time to train staff, but we can easily, how do you say, implement our training with other training and include these kinds of practices in our training, okay? Some companies abroad are doing this kind of training in their induction days, okay? Any questions, or shall I go through all? I'm not going to go through the 13th point. I'm going only till the 8th, because all 13th, they don't, how to say, they're not used by everyone, depending on your company and depending on the size of your restaurant, okay? But the first 8, I'm sure that everyone can use, okay? Recycle and implement reusable items, okay? If you're not recycling by now, it's time to get on board, okay? We're 2021, guys. Obviously, we need to, if we're not, okay, recycling today, it's a shame, really. The government is giving to all, okay, all these special bins where we can separate food, plastic, etc. Okay. Divert use glass and cardboard. I believe a lot of hotels are doing this already. Contact your local waste management company. Yes, we started in Malta, but we're still slow on this side, unfortunately. Okay, but there is a start, and that is a very good thing. Even as household in Malta, they're doing their part as well. Okay, in the hotels depends. Okay, and restaurants as well. Maybe because it's space. I know usually in the old times we had 1 bin. Today we have 4 bins. Okay, space is very limited where to put these bins, but we always, if we look, we always find, I'm sure we can find some space to do our separation. Okay, consider what items can be cleaned and reused. Okay, swap paper napkins for cloth ones. Yes, here again we're looking at the financial. Okay, some people turn to napkins. I'm not referring to the COVID here, okay? We did this program before we went into the pandemic era, okay? So imagine we're on the normal terms, okay? No pandemic around, nothing, okay? And this is a normal everyday life, okay? So back to swap paper and napkins, some people turn to paper napkins because when calculated, it costs them less, okay, to buy than to send their own cloth napkins to laundry, okay? Maybe this is something we need to consider again, okay? I know it costs money, but we need to pull everyone's all together, not okay. If we take step 5, start composting. This is, I'm not going through this one because I already mentioned, okay, for the food waste you do and end up with composting, okay, it's an excellent way to divert food waste from landfill. Maybe here I need to make a point. The reason the governments all over the world they insist on people to separate food, not only because the environment, for the environment reason, when we're not separating fruit from the normal garbage, okay, this will go into landfills where it creates food. The food waste creates these poisonous gases. Okay, so even for us and for people, okay, yet to come, we're doing this for them. Okay, if we take 6, buy locally. Again, here it's very, very critical, and you can argue till next year about this one. We try to buy locally. Sometimes the prices are more expensive than the one we import. Okay, as a chef, you need to take care of your budget. Sometimes we don't find what we want because when we're doing the menus, we're choosing items which probably you don't find them locally as well. It's good to support, okay, our hardworking local farmers and producers, okay, and to cut down on time between harvest and delivery. In the old times, I'm not putting you in my age group, okay, here. In the old times, restaurants were famous when serving the seasonal product, okay? Maybe it's time again to rethink, to go and create, I mean, a lot of famous restaurants in Europe at the moment, they are famous because actually they produce what is in season. Okay, so apart from giving a hand to our local farmers and producers when buying locally, obviously we can do not different menus, different suggestions for our clients. Okay. Create in-house preservation strategies. This is again depending on the hotel, depending on your restaurant, depending on your staff. Okay, as well. Some restaurants have a big brigade. Some restaurants they don't have big brigades. So again here, depending on your premises really. And I go with the last one. Calculate and monitor inventory days on hand. Okay. The journey to waste reduction requires dedication, a team, effort, and time. Yes, I don't have time. I don't have. Maybe you need finance as well from your financial directors sometimes. Yes, it is very challenging. It is, but it can be done. It can be done. This is what we're saying here. I believe me and my colleagues we sometimes do meetings together, and this is the argument here. Yes, it is very challenging, but it can be done. You know, this is not something that we are going to achieve by doing something. This is the only achievement here we're talking about is to have a better life for us and for people who are coming in the next generation. Okay. If we set no, not really goals. This is something we need to implement in our establishments. Yes, we can reduce food, and obviously you can reduce your financial income, which is going to your waste, obviously. Okay. I'm not here to tell you how to do it because everyone have his own plan or way of doing things. Here we're only suggesting what you might or what you can do. Okay. And I believe this is what I had to say, and I believe me and my colleagues here, this is what we wanted to pass over. This is my favorite, to tell you the truth. This is my favorite slides. Sometimes, yes, I like Gandhi, me personally, and one of his saying was, the world is big enough to satisfy everyone's needs, but will always be too small to satisfy everyone's greed. Sometimes, yes, we do it for our own greed, you know, unfortunately. Maybe it is time to think much less of us and think more of others. And that is all from my side.
Thank you very much, Charlotte and Ronald, for your interventions. Ronald, I have a question for you, because I know that as part of the project you participated in a number now of specialized training programs, one in Italy, and then they were delivered in Malta as well. And sort of the main point of the training revolved around having a limited number of ingredients and trying to figure out how you're going to use them to the fullest extent. and creating multiple dishes from that limited amount of ingredients. Could you perhaps explain sort of your...
I know I told you the story, Gabriel, but for the sake of others, I'm going to tell you the story again, okay? For me, it was a very, very nice experience. And I'm not boasting here. I have a lot of experience in the kitchen. And for me, it was an open eye, okay? What you can do, you actually do when you are limited with so few ingredients. And what was interested during this training was that we were given a very, very limited basket, okay, to cook for others. And from what was wasted, we needed to cook and create dishes for the next day lunch. And believe me, once you put your mind and you start thinking, you can do beautiful things. And it was a really nice experience. I hope.
Sorry, Ronald, you were going to say something else.
Oh. Yes, I hope that all the participants goes through this training to see. Yes. I tell you, it's amazing. You learn.
Yes, hopefully when we're past this pandemic, we can move on to actual physical training rather than webinars for this important topic. Do you have any examples on sort of dishes that are not quote unquote normal or that mainstream?
Example, there are millions, and I'm sure I'm not here to tell these people because I might insult someone that I don't wish to insult no one. I'm sure they're all professionals, you know. This is not more on the dish. This is more on the thinking side, what you need to do and how to produce. That's why I mentioned knowledge, Gabriel, before. Because it's useless for me to tell you to do something when you don't know how to do it, you know. Or I'll give you a small example. If you're cutting the carrot, okay, the top part and the bottom part, and usually because you don't know, you throw them away before you know how to use, or the skin of the potato, yeah? Before you know that you can actually cook the skin and eat it and make beautiful appetizers from skin of a potato, it's useless, you know. This is when we mentioned, I believe it was the fourth point, when we mentioned the training for the staff, okay? If your staff doesn't know how to use the product, it's useless to tell him not to waste. He needs to know how to use the product, you know. And sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of people do not have this kind of training, okay? I don't know if you want to add something else.
No, it's very true. And I don't know if your colleagues, if Paul or Charlotte have anything to add to this presentation.
Yes, if I may.
Yes, Paul.
First of all, I would like to thank Ronald and Charlotte for their splendid presentation. And what I would like to say is, sometimes we take a lot of things for granted, especially if you're the chef and you're manning the kitchen. Not all things are so simple. Let's say, everybody knows that you should always change the things in the fridge. The things that come last should be put in front. But many times it happens that certain people ignore this. And what happens? At the end, you will realize that you're throwing away a lot of food. Unfortunately, this is what happens also in our homes. Also, in our menus, we should add food and parts of, let's say, chicken necks and prepare a broth with it. How many people use chicken necks to prepare a broth? At, on our website, we have prepared some recipes. Also, we have prepared some cookies with the pumpkin seeds, which is another commodity which we don't usually use. If we use
Sorry to interrupt you, Paul.
okay,
To go with you, and this is something which interested the chefs. Elderman, the chef for Savoy, he made a special broth, chicken broth, from the chicken heads. Because his argument was that it's very rare to get a chicken nowadays with a head.
it's true. It's true.
So, and in the
Why?
old times, our grandmothers and mothers, they used to obviously use the whole chicken.
They wouldn't throw anything away. They would have used all the chicken parts, from head till every part of the chicken. So, if I may continue, if sometimes we use our imagination and try also to use these commodities which we don't usually use, you are gaining money, because instead of throwing these things away, you're using them and you sell them, you're getting money back. And thus, you're reducing your food cost, which means the entity which you're working for is gaining more money. Even it's a satisfaction for you that you're helping this cost. To waste, don't waste.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that intervention. Unless there are any other comments from your end, or perhaps from the participants, I think we can draw this this webinar to a close. With your permission, Paul, Ronald, and Charlotte, we can share this presentation with the participants as well, I believe.
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course, for sure.
So I can share this, and even for the benefit of those who could not attend, because some people messaged me before the webinar and unfortunately they had other commitments. And we can also share a full recording of the webinar on the Malta Business Bureau YouTube channel. I thank you all.
Sorry, Gabriel.
Yes?
Maybe to add something before we leave.
Yes.
This is not a topic which can be talked or discussed in 1 hour, for sure. You know that, we all know that. It would be more interesting if the participants maybe one day will make it more as an argumentative program, you know, where we share all the ideas, okay, or what challenges are having in conducting these practices at work, you know. So this is what I wanted to add, so the participants will know.
Yes, I agree, Ronald. And in fact, since this is part of a webinar series and this is just the first one, we have room for to amend our approach and sort of fine-tune it, to also sort of make use of the current situation. Unfortunately, it's a webinar, as you already said,
yes,
but for future events, we'll keep the participants updated and also bring aboard their own suggestions on what sort of course would benefit them.
Very good.
I thank all three of you for your presentation. I thank all participants for joining us today. As I said, you will hear from me with today's materials and recording, as well for further information on future events. Thank you, and I wish
Thank you very much.
good rest of the afternoon.